Yeah. What is up? What is happening? Welcome to another edition of Respect the Court. And my apologies for being out for a while. Had some things to take care of, but that's irrelevant right now. What matters is that we're back in the fold talking about basketball in its greatest form, its highest level. So let's get into it. This episode, I want to talk about. There have been a lot of things that have happened in the world of basketball lately, from the narratives to journalists to the strange. I wouldn't even call it strange, but it's just the strange takes that have come about, and of course, March Madness. But truly, I just want to talk very briefly about March Madness and why I think it has been great to leave the narratives at home when it comes to this particular season coming into March Madness. So, as most of y'all already know, we are now in the Elite Eight, or about to be in the Elite Eight for the men's college NCAA tournament. The women's, I believe, are still in the Sweet 16. Close to, maybe even close to getting into the Elite Eight. I don't quite remember. I have to check my bracket. My brackets have been on fire this year. It's been great. A few missteps here and there, but whoever gets it perfect, no one. But yeah, college basketball. College basketball has always been funny to me because I enjoy the hard effort that the students put in. But I have to admit, I'm not the biggest college basketball fan, really because of two reasons. One being, it's still dominated by coaches, by head coaches. And when I say dominated by head coaches, it means that when you are in that particular program, you are running the offense that is dictated by the head coach. There's no room for creativity. There's no room for thinking out of the box. There's no room for error. You got to run the plays this way and only this way. And I mean, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're still developing as a player, you got to teach players how to think. So that's always been my problem with college basketball. Like, the players are not allowed to think. They are told to play a certain way. And if the players are lucky enough to make it to the next level, and from what I've heard from many NBA players who made the jump from college to the pros, is that everything you learn in college basically goes out the window because it's a different game entirely. Like, the sets that you run are not the same sets, clearly, of course, because you're going from amateur to pro. But just the style of basketball, the type of whistles that you get if you get them, depending on who you are, and of course, it's the pros. The pros are run by businesses, run by owners, they're run by incentives, and it's ran by superstars. So certain things are going to be dictated more than others. And that's fine. That's okay. It is what it is. But I've also noticed that it's trickling down, or it's been that way, I should say. I shouldn't say it's been trickling down. It's always been that way. You're gonna have like your college stars, right? That's always been the case since the '60s. And then you got like college stars who are lucky enough to go ahead and go pro. That's awesome. That's great. But of course, my first point being that it's still a head coaching game. It's more for the coaches, not for the players. You're just there to run your sets, play your position, and call it done. So that's my one gripe with college basketball. My second gripe with college basketball is that, let's be honest, colleges are a business. And if you have a college athletic program that's heavy into either football or basketball, baseball, maybe, depending on what your school's go-to sport is, your incentive as an athletic director, as the person that's in charge of the money for the schools, and your job is to try to find the best talent possible. Right? There isn't like a pool. There isn't a draft like there is with the NBA. You just kind of get whoever you can through offering scholarships or through transfer portals or anything like that. And so for me, I feel like the college game really is based on who does the best recruiting. That's it. There's hundreds of college campuses throughout the United States. But when we get to tournament time, NCAA tournament, only 64 teams get through. And of those 64 teams, let's be honest, the same 20 to 25 teams are the ones that usually make it to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and the Final Four. It's usually the same 20 teams. Why is that? It's because they always are heavily recruiting. They have the money, they have the pool. So that's just what it is. So I always feel like, okay, we have this tournament and that's great, but let's be honest, the best teams don't play each other until maybe the Elite 8. The first round is just kind of a throwaway round. If you're an elite school, you know you're going to make it to the Sweet 16, provided that there's no upset. If you're a school that's basically ranked from, I would say, 11 down, your chances of going far are slim. Not to say you can't do it. We've seen it many a times, but it's the fact that you're going to get into the Final Four, not going to happen. So if you have any kind of aspirations of going pro, your main objective is to try to get into these schools that are a top 25 sports school. Your Dukes, your UCLA's, your Alabamas, schools in the SEC and the Big 12, all of them. Like, so for me, then at that point, are we actually fairly looking at the entire playing field of the sport of basketball during the NCAA tournament? Maybe, maybe not, but it's whatever. It's a gripe, but I've learned to live with it. And also, the other thing is, these are kids who are at the amateur level. There's probably like a very small, slim number of college kids where you're like, oh, you are definitely pro. The rest are good, just good, but they're never going to see a pro contract. They're just not. So I watch it mainly for NCAA March Madness, see how my bracket does, and I mainly watch it because these kids play hard. And you really only have two outcomes: either teams play and the game is really close, which is good because that means they're evenly matched more or less, or it's a blowout. And that's just like that's not fun. But of course, that's just the way it's structured. In professional playoffs, that's not usually the case. You're not always going to see blowouts from like the top seed rank to like, number eights if they're playing against number eight. But who knows? Who knows? And it's been fun. There's been some great names. There's been some nice upsets. But what I love is the fact that we're not, especially this season, we're not running with narratives. We're just not running with narratives. We're actually focused on the game. We're focused on how well these kids are playing, how well they're running their sets, how well they're defending, how well they're really keen into these big time moments and showing up and really showing the world that, hey, I can play. I think the worst thing, I'm probably going to talk about this in another episode, I think one of the worst things that has happened in the world of sports is that we're so focused on hot takes, we're so focused on narratives that we're not enjoying what the product is in front of us. And what we have right now is an awesome tournament that's doing very well. The kids are playing at a high level, and we just have to respect it for what it is. Good, hard, clean basketball. That's it. The pros, that's a different story, but I've enjoyed what I've been seeing, and it's a good thing that we're focusing on just basketball, not narratives, not on one superstar, not on one person, just the game itself. And it's good to see. And I really think that most people who are true basketball fans are really enjoying what we're seeing this season in the NCAA tournament and March Madness and all of that. So Let's keep it going. May the best team win on both the men's and the women's side, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think this is now, the Elite Eight for the men at this point, closing up the Sweet 16 for the women's side, and it's looking good. But I will tell you my picks. I've had numerous brackets, but at least the pool that I'm in, I have on the men's side, I have Florida winning it. I know everyone thinks Duke is gonna win it, and they might. I don't care. I ain't got no money on this. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I do. I did put some money into this pool. So, but yeah, I have Florida winning it for the men, and it was a toss-up between UConn and South Carolina for the women. But I went with South Carolina. But I feel like Paige Buckers from UConn is. I think this might be her moment, or it may not. Who knows? Like, these things are really hard to tell. We can't predict it, but that's why we start these brackets up. That's why we pick, just to see what's gonna be what. But anyway, that's what it is. March Madness 2025. Get y'all on the next one. Peace.